Moltes gràcies. Bueno, primer explicar que aquest panel, que aquesta taula, serà idiomàticament lliure i rica. Intentaremos utilizar el inglés, pero como hay diversos aspectos técnicos en los que cada uno de nosotros igual se siente más cómodo utilizando un idioma, pues cada uno lo utilizará libremente. Pero intentaremos seguir todos en inglés, porque tenemos a Mathias con nosotros, a Mathias Birkel. Ahora os lo presentaré, pero que es uno de los panelistas, entonces para que él nos siga intentaremos hacerlo todo en inglés, excepto esta pequeña introducción que yo os voy a hacer sobre mi visión de lo que hemos estado viviendo estos 2 días. Estoy muy feliz y muy contento de haber vivido estos 2 días. He aprendido muchísimo. Para mí ha sido enriquecedor. Y creo que las conclusiones son muy interesantes. Lo primero, si queréis, es un poco obvio. Hay una nueva tecnología en el mercado, la inteligencia artificial, y parece que esta tecnología va a cambiar nuestras vidas, va a cambiar nuestro modelo de sociedad. Eso está lleno de riesgos y de oportunidades. Sobre la tecnología yo creo que estamos de acuerdo de que es beneficiosa, de que es algo bueno, de que va a mejorar nuestras vidas o que las puede mejorar y de que no nos podemos negar a ningún tipo de avance tecnológico, con lo cual debemos estar dispuestos a acoger cualquier nuevo avance tecnológico e incorporarlo. De hecho, ahora oíamos a algunos músicos decir que no tienen problemas con utilizar la tecnología. Yo conozco a muchos músicos y todos ellos tienen un gran espíritu juguetón, diríamos. Y claro, si les das un juguete nuevo, están encantados de ponerse a jugar con él, ¿no? Y también hemos hablado de que los investigadores en realidad también son creadores, y si a los investigadores les das un juguete nuevo, pues también están encantados de jugar con él. Sobre que hay un juguete nuevo y la gente tiene muchas ganas de jugar con él, no hay ninguna duda. Estamos todos de acuerdo. El problema no es el juguete, el problema es el modelo de negocio que hay detrás del juguete. Esta tarde aquí va a haber una jam session de músicos y una inteligencia artificial. La inteligencia artificial que utilizaremos es la inteligencia artificial de la Goldsmith University, de una universidad inglesa, y por tanto es una inteligencia artificial pública o con una vocación pública. Pero en líneas generales, las inteligencias artificiales que se están utilizando son inteligencias artificiales que están en manos de empresas privadas y que utilizan nuestros datos, nuestro conocimiento, nuestras creaciones para enriquecer su modelo de negocio. Y ese modelo de negocio pone en cuestión todo el modelo de negocio de las industrias creativas. Es decir, pone en riesgo todo el modelo de negocio de las industrias creativas porque se basa en la utilización y en no respetar un sistema que está basado en que los creadores dedican muchísimo tiempo a crear y una vez tienen una creación se pasan muchísimo tiempo cobrando por esa creación a través de un sistema de cobro por derechos de autor. ¿No? Es un modelo que hemos ido desarrollando y que permite que la comunidad creativa, los creadores, la industria que la acompaña, viva más o menos dignamente, con más o menos ambición de esto, pero que la inteligencia artificial lo pone completamente en cuestión. Y ayer tuvimos la conferencia de José María Lasalle, en el que era como muy catastrofista, diciendo vamos a destrozar toda la industria creativa. Tenemos que salir a las calles, tenemos que reivindicar, tenemos que ponerlo en cuestión, porque si se destruye la industria creativa, se destruye el modelo social, el modelo de sociedad. La inteligencia artificial puede empezar a imaginar, puede empezar a pensar, y lo que está en riesgo es todo nuestro modelo social. Luego tuvimos abogados que nos decían que justamente con esa visión la Unión Europea está intentando ser quien decida el modelo regulatorio, ¿no? Parece que Estados Unidos, a través de sus grandes corporaciones o en defensa de sus grandes corporaciones, y de China en defensa de su modelo de control gubernamental, no defienden el modelo de negocio de las industrias creativas que tenemos, y que Europa se encuentra solo con esto. Entonces, podría ser que Europa fuera el gran defensor del modelo de negocio de las industrias creativas, y que quien quiera trabajar en Europa, que quieras o no es un mercado pues importante y tal, tendrá que aceptar nuestro modelo legislativo. Si Europa lo consigue, genial, nuestro modelo legislativo y sus valores, su ética, ¿no? Democracia, todo lo que incorpora, ¿no? Si Europa lo consigue, genial, y si no, nos vemos abocados a que todas las industrias creativas están en peligro. Y por lo tanto nos tocaría reaccionar a ello. Y por otro lado, pues para que seamos conscientes de todo esto, también hacemos estas jornadas, y yo creo que detectábamos también un papel que puede tener Barcelona como ciudad en todo esto, que es una ciudad que tiene un ecosistema donde hay grupos de investigación, donde hay empresas que monitorizan derechos, ¿no? Propiedad de derechos, donde hay grandes abogados, donde hay una fundación, donde hay, que es la Barcelona Music Lab, que crea estas jornadas, donde hay un ecosistema innovador. Y nos parece que es el lugar adecuado para generar este debate. Pero más allá de eso, siempre estamos hablando de cuál será el impacto, cuál será el impacto, cuál será el impacto. Y one of the few peoples and companies that have studied the impact is Mathias Birkel, who is a senior manager of the global media. And they have just finished a study with 4 countries, one of France and Germany, and one from Australia and New Zealand, studying the impact of the IA in the music industry. So finally, at this first step of the IA, someone has dived in and give us some figures and some numbers of what it means. Later, we have Amaia Ramón, who is a lawyer and senior manager of legal and business affairs of Sony Music Publisher. We have listened to the public administration, to the artists, to the innovation community, but we have not listened the point of view of a big player of the music industry. And even she's really involved about what the new Real Decreto and the legislation in Spain and Europe will decide on how to protect the right holders. And finally, but not last, Xavier Serra is the founder of the director of an investigator group, probably one of the advanced investigator groups in the music industry since 20, 30 years, who is the Music Technology Group based in Barcelona, based in the Universidad Pompeu Fabra, that they are always looking to the future. And of course, we need to know what he thinks will happen in the next years. So let's begin. Let's begin with Mathias, and let's explain the impacts of the coming of the IA.
Thank you, Jordi. for the introduction, and yeah, thank you for having me here. As you already said, what we at Gold Media basically did within the last 2 years was comprehensive research on the impact of AI on music creators. So we did that on behalf of music collecting societies. The first one was in Germany and France, so for GEMA and SACEM. The next one was for Australia and New Zealand for the guys at APRA MCAS. And so we got a really comprehensive view of the music creators' point of view on opportunities and challenges on AI and music. We got 15,000 replies in Germany and France and another 4,000 in Australia and New Zealand. So this was really a comprehensive result that we gathered. And what we found out is that AI for many music creators is not science fiction. It already is currently relevant. Already 35% of all the music creators have worked with AI in any context. For the younger ones, the people who are 30 years old or less, it's even more than half of them who have worked with AI in any context. And it's in all parts of the music creation process where we can find AI work with. First of all, the music creation itself, of course. So for song texting, sample search, complete music creation, we have found, or there were presented a lot of examples on the panels before, so I won't go into details. What I can say is that many music creators find it really inspiring to work with AI. 43% of the music creators say that AI can open up new forms of creativity. 38% say that AI technology can support the human creative process. We can see differences between the music creators on music genres where they are active in. So it's not very surprising that there are genres where AI is used more than in other genres. For example, electronic music, 45 or 55%, or even 55% it was of electronic musicians have worked with AI already, also in genres like rap music, for example, but also in music for the audiovisual sector, background music, stock music, and advertising music. These are genres where AI use is already very vast, while there are more handmade music forms where it isn't. But not only in the music creation process, also on the recording side. So with mastering, mixing, editing, and stuff like this, AI has become a standard practice for many musicians. It has to be said, however, that there are many tools in the market that now have the AI label on it that have been on the market for many years now. So they basically are based on algorithms, not so much on AI itself. So it has become a bit of a hype also. But nevertheless, many use these kind of tools, and it makes them automate parts of the work so very easily, so they can save times on time-consuming tasks, and they can concentrate more on the creative process, and they can also save money, of course, of this. And also we have the supporting aspects of the AI. So in tasks like musical promotion, for example, social media concepts, artworks, etc. We found a lot of cases where AI is used in supporting aspects. Last not least, it's also a part of the distribution process. So platforms like Boomi, for example, not only allow you to create a complete song, Boomi also allows the music creators to directly load it up to Spotify in an automated process. And that leads to a challenge because Spotify is currently being flooded with AI-created music that's distributed automatically very often, and there's already a term for that that's called AI slop. So these platforms are flooded with low-quality music currently, and this leads me to the challenges of all this, because besides all these opportunities, there are, as you know, challenges, and we also asked the music creators what they see about this, and there are really clear pictures, because 2/3 of all the music creators say that they think that the risks outweigh the opportunities outweigh, while there were only 11% saying that the opportunities outweigh the risks. So a clear picture of the music creators saying, okay, there are challenges, and besides this music flood, for example, it's also the question of their current business models being substituted by AI. So, as I already said, there are genres where AI is used a lot, and you can say, well, it's not very easy to say where exactly music is substituted, or handmade music is substituted by AI-made music, but you can say that the more generic a music genre is, the more likely it is to be substituted by AI. So, for example, we had also made a lot of interviews, and there was one saying, okay, normally I had jobs for background music for TV documentaries, where normally only like a musical carpet is needed. But these jobs don't exist anymore, because the TV operators make the music themselves, or they just don't. At least they don't pay for this anymore. So it is the reality that there are music genres being substituted, and we also made a calculation on this. So we calculated which genres are likely to be substituted, and we roughly estimated that up to 2028, about 1/4 of all the earnings of music creators are at risk of getting substituted. And that goes into the billions of euros. We did the calculation for Germany and France, for example, and cumulative loss that is at risk goes into the region of almost 3 billion euros altogether. It's a really huge business, because, they earn roughly 10 million euros from the collecting side altogether, and it's 1/4 of this is at risk. On the other hand, one has to say that not only the earnings are getting substituted, but also there is not a working agreement of how music creators can participate on this upcoming AI music business model. Because on the other hand, we have a really billion-dollar model coming up with these huge AI models, and music creators do not participate up to now, because there is no working models on this. And this leads to the challenges, and music creators that we ask them, they clearly say that policymakers really have to pay more attention on this topic. And while they embrace AI, the use of AI must follow clear rules when it comes to questions like transparency and credit. So it has to be made clear that AI music is an AI created song, and also these songs have to have, so AI providers have to disclose if they which music they use for creating these songs. Also the question of consent. So as a music creator, you should be able to agree if your music is used as training data. And last not least, they want to participate financially from the earnings that AI providers do. And this leads over to Amaia, I think.
Talking about how to protect this community, I think Amaia or Ramón can give us some ideas of what is now happening.
So I'm going to give a legal perspective or a legal point of view. And so I work for, as he said, I work for Sony Music Publishing here in Spain. And I think it's obvious that our perspective is far from prohibiting this kind of uses, which we cannot do because they will keep on existing. What we want is to create a system of licenses that is legal and that is and by which the writers and all the creators are fairly compensated and remunerated. And so with this said, I'm going to focus now for the next 10 minutes or so on the AI regulation, which some of you may have already know about. And so, as you know, this regulation was published last August, this 2024 August. And it's the only one that exists all across the globe on this matter. And despite its entry into force last August, actually it won't, the vast majority of the provisions won't be applicable until 2026, so August 2026, except for some of them in which we have the ones that are we find the ones for the providers of general purpose AI models, in which we can find generative AI. And so for these cases, well, the regulation is not, of course, based or doesn't have a specific focus on creative industries or music industries, because the focus that it has, the regulation it has, is focus based on risk. And it's obvious that there are way more other topics or matters in society that can be more affected by AI, such as, for example, biometric data or things like that, that it's more affected or is more at risk than IP rights. But still, the regulation states in its Article 53 that AI providers must comply with IP laws, with intellectual property laws. So one of the key points of this regulation is transparency. So it says in Article 53, it says that AI providers must provide sufficiently detailed summaries of all the content that they train their model with. And also they must keep up to date the documentation and information of the model, including the parts of the training process. Also, another important thing regarding this transparency is the one stated in Article 50 that says that all AI providers must label all the content that has been created with AI. So if you create any content with synthetic content or AI content, you must label it, and this application of labeling goes far beyond a simple statement saying this content has been created with AI written in human language. That wouldn't suffice, but rather they point to more solid and more technological methods, so that the public know and they can safely know when a content has been created with AI. So one of these methods that this regulation states is the watermarking. This watermarking won't be readable by a human, by the human eye, but it has to be perfectly identifiable by an algorithm. It is important, I mentioned these obligations because failure to comply with this implies automatic fines of up to 15 million euros or 3% of the total global annual turnover of the company on the previous financial year. So the one that is bigger or higher. So we should all bear in mind these obligations, since the sanctions are quite high. Okay, so now getting to the point, and as you may all know, that the main controversy of this regulation is the text and data mining exception. So I don't know if I'm getting too legal here, but since I'm a lawyer, I wanted to mention it, and it's the text undetermining exception. So to put you in context, the regulation, the AI regulation says that all AI providers must comply with the laws of intellectual property. And therefore, if you want to use a copyrighted content, you must acquire a license. However, it also says that they must comply with Article 4 of the Digital Single Market Directive. So this article refers to the text and data mining exception. Text and data mining implies the massive extraction of data that is available online in order to analyze it and create information that can involve correlation, trends, or patterns. And so this Article 4 says that refers to for-profit and private companies, because as you said previously, there is another compulsory obligation for research companies and universities that for those cases, it's compulsory, it's obligatory, it's an obligatory exception. But for these for-profit or private companies such as AI companies, it's not obligatory, it's not compulsory, but AI companies will be able to use all the content that is publicly available online as long as they have had lawful access to it, unless the rights holders of the rights they are using make an express reservation of the rights. So that is called an opt-out. So this opt-out, for it to work or for it to be valid, the regulation says that it has to be done by machine-readable means. So that if you, for example, have a web page and you want to establish there your opt-out or your express reservation of your rights, and so you write, you create a wording there in the terms and conditions saying, so this content will not be valid, you cannot use this content for AI purposes, that apparently, according to the regulation, wouldn't be enough or wouldn't suffice, because you have to do it through this machine-readable, through algorithm means or format. So it is also very important to mention that this text and data mining exception only applies to a certain part of the process. So you know that within the generative AI process, you have an input phase, and then you have an output phase. So this would only apply to the input phase and only to certain parts of the input phase. So it would apply to the massive extraction of data, and it would apply to certain parts of the training process. Therefore, the process of the phase of the output and some phases of the training of the model are not covered by this exception. And so any AI company that wants to use any copyrighted content must acquire a license for these purposes. Okay? So I wanted also to mention briefly that, for example, in the States, in the United States, in principle, they also have to comply with these intellectual property obligations, but they have another exception, which is the fair use doctrine. But actually, this doctrine is more oriented towards research and non-profit purposes. Plus, they must also comply with 4 requirements that are really specific. So, I mean, this exception would only work on a case-by-case basis, so it wouldn't operate in bulk. So, I mean, the only exception we have as a bulk or as a group for massive extraction of data would be the TDM exception that is only covered by the European Union new regulation. Okay.
Can I do some question?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the important point. I'm not a lawyer, so what I understand is if an AI company wanna use any creativity content or create any creativity content with AI, the only thing it has to done is to say, I'm using AI. That's right?
No,
Oh.
because well, if you are an AI company, and so you are massively extracting data from online, and then you are going to train that content, and then you are going to potentially, like, because you can do it or not, create outputs. You are the user, right? But like your technology is able to create new outputs. Therefore, you would be covered. In its case, you would be covered only for the part of the massive extraction of data and for certain parts of the training process. But so, because this is more oriented to research purposes, and so this is why the text data mining covers just like this massive extraction of data and some parts of the training process. But then, if you want to use it as an AI company, such, for example, Suno, Urdio, for these ones, for example, they must acquire their license and their authorization from the rights holders.
But if I don't want they use my songs, I have to communicate it. And how I know they are not using my songs? There is any protection?
You have to, for now, like all the extractions they have made, like these big AI companies, for example, for music, they have already made, there's no solution other than reaching agreements or suing them through courts. And that's what's happening at the moment. But for the new content, and once this law is applicable, you will be able to opt out your rights from the use of these platforms.
And probably they have already used all the library before it came that low.
Yeah, so that's the main problem we have at the moment. And the main solution is being suing them through courts, like going to the courts and, because otherwise they don't want to pay the massive amounts of money they should pay, because they have used, for example, for Sony, the whole catalog of Sony, or for any other music company, they are using the whole catalog. So we are at the moment making our opt-outs through our collecting societies and other agents. But truth is that for all the catalog that has already been injected in the models and trained, and they are training those models, there's no other solution rather than suing them. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we are beginning to create some protection, but they have done everything that they want since now, and it creates some kind of a competitive advantage. Yeah. And they are not paying for that, and it's in hands of few companies.
Yeah, they believe, they want us to make us believe that they have not breached any laws, or that they did this lawfully. That's what they say. They say that this is not transformation. Like when they make this new content, that's not a transformation of the previous content, but rather it's an inspiration. That's what they argue. So, of course, in some interviews that have been made to people from Suno or Dio, they even recognized, without knowing or without wanting to do so, that they are using content, protected content, with no authorization. So yeah, that's what's happening at the moment.
Do you want to add something, Mathias?
No, I just wanted to stress the thing that the damage is already done. So this is so all we are talking about now is like
for the future.
Yeah, for the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there has to be also compensation for the damage already done. So
yeah.
This is what I wanted to
Xavier?
stress.
Yeah, I don't completely agree with that. But first, let me start saying, well, we use the term AI, and AI is a collection of many, many technologies. And in the last hour, we have seen two examples of really bad AIs. One is this, I don't know how many of you have really been able to follow our dialogue with that. Doesn't work.
I have to say that as we are a foundation who is working with the startups and with new system, we are testing
very good.
New system.
Excellent, that's great.
And you have also came into to this panel with a smart ticket who is also a test. So we are testing technologies.
You are testing with us.
But even the good ones still are they don't do the work. And the other example we lived is in the previous panel. Clearly, the area of music improvisation has not been tackled by the big companies. There is a lot of research institutions that are doing that, but a level that is sort of orders of magnitude below what current AI models do. So clearly, when we talk about AI, there's so many levels and so many complexities. And for music improvisation, for live music, clearly we are far from the state of the art of what other AIs do. So these are clear examples that it's not like AI is solving everything and will substitute musicians. There are many, many example use cases that are far from being adequately addressed, and that the big companies are even interested, because these are niche things that precisely these big companies might not be interested. And that's what I want to give my point, is that the real innovation, the real things that will push technologies and will support a sector like the music sector are going to be the startups, are going to be the innovation happening with the small companies. And these companies are in big danger now. Sincerely, because of the interpretation of the AI Act, the regulation, and sincerely, the public opinion. So in fact, the battle now, I don't think it's at the regulatory part, it's not at the political, it's not at the technical, it's at the public opinion level. I don't think ever any technology, before being fully deployed, had a debate like is being having right now. And that's good, that's excellent. But that means it's a very dangerous situation. It's the danger of democracy. It's the danger that basically all the companies, all the politicians, all the regulators are are trying to get the public opinion on their side. And so the big fights are the lobbying that are happening to influence the AI Act, to influence the public opinion, so that a certain way of doing it becomes kind of the norm. And let me just put an example. With this public opinion, and with the idea right now that most of us have, I was at a conference last week, and and there was in the panel like this, one representative of a big record label. And someone asked, can in Europe, a student of mine who is doing his final year project use your content for doing a research on genre recognition? What should they do? The response, and no one complained, was, well, they could just send me an email and I will then see if I can let this student use our content. That's completely bullshit. That clearly will never happen, would never answer email, and is not right. There is a clear exception in the European law for education and research that allows us to be able to use copyrighted content for research purposes. And the AI Act, in fact, exclusively says that they don't want to get into that. The AI Act and all the regulations is for business, for product level solutions, not for research. Well, and it's very dangerous.
Not just for research, for military,
yeah, of course.
For research,
exactly.
And for public administration.
Exactly right. So
these are exceptions of their own law.
But then what happens, and this happens to us as a research group and happens to all spin-offs, with this public opinion, the first thing that a CEO, the first thing that a research leader will do when starting an innovative project, a research project, will be to consult a lawyer. That had never happened before. So now we are very close to lawyers, which is great. But, but lawyers, and as we saw yesterday, there are some lawyers that are amazing, and they have such a view of the shortcomings of what we have, etc. But it's clear that the law is only, it regulates problems, it regulates the existing reality. It cannot be used to propose solutions for the future. And that's what we're trying to do now. And so when you ask a lawyer with the AI Act in front of them, the same question that we ask the record label, in fact, they will say, oh, we don't know, so better don't do it, okay? That's the response. The lawyers, when there is not a clear law expressing that case, which a lot of cases are not reflected in the Act, they are afraid. And so a business person, a startup, with trying to get investors, trying to get the money and the content to be able to start innovating and proposing things, they are a big problem.
This is because you are in Europe. Because if you are in the States or in China, probably the answer of your lawyer
It's not clear, because the fair use case in the US is case by case. So it's not like there is, in fact, in Europe it's much easier, because there is a very clear exception, very well regulated. There is the research and education, and there is some exceptions that are very clear. In the US, there is not very clear, so it's the fair use. And the fair use is case by case. So the courts are full of fair use cases, like the current one, that aims to do that.
Amaia, you are a lawyer.
Yeah, I believe that the law is quite clear, and it states, at least for IP, that you have to comply with IP laws. And so as long as you do that and you don't, you are not in breach of those laws, and you ask for authorization when you do have to do so, then you can, you have room for innovation and for growth and for startups and everything. So yeah, it's true that sometimes a lawyer, when they don't really know if something is not that clear, they are going to
say no.
Take the most protective approach.
Correct.
But still, I think that in this case, of course, as I said previously, this law doesn't really regulate our topic. You know, it's not that important for society.
That's right.
As can be,
Correct.
I don't know, military risks or anything. But still, it states a clear provision that says that you have to comply with. So it refers to those laws.
But then, but then the interpretation, since you have to go through many laws and you have to interpret them, that's not an easy. But anyway, I wanted to really...
That's why you need a lawyer?
Yeah, but the right lawyer, because we have been always talking with different lawyers, and there are lawyers that are very protective, clearly, because they are in danger if they tell a CEO that done what they should do, and there is a few $1 million behind that, they would take the protective, the conservative stand.
But Xavier, as you are in a research group, really advanced research group, I would like you to have your crystal ball and tell us what are you working on and what do you think will happen on the next years?
Well, clearly, and from this introduction, it's impossible to know, because it is in the hands of the public opinion. But I would like to evolve in a certain situation. The current innovation by startups or by many research groups is based on starting from a foundational model from the big companies. So starting from GPT, starting from Llama, from Meta, and then on top of that, adding your personalization, adding your private data, and adapting that model to your use case, research, business, etc., and then deploying some technology based on that. And that's what many startups are doing, many research groups are doing. So we are completely dependent on a US-developed foundational model that presumably does not comply with the AI Act. So what will happen? So what will happen with when the AI Act is implemented, and if Google and if Meta do not report and comply with the AI Act. Because, of course, the responsible is the end developer or the end company, but at the end, they have no idea. They are not able to justify what their model has been trained on. They are not able to justify what happened behind. So that's a big problem. So that means that there is a clear need, and yesterday was very well presented, that AI, in fact, should be a public concept. The AI, in fact, AI has been developed mainly through public money, through public institutions, and is completely trained from the data of all of us. So you could claim that these big foundational models, they really, in terms of, okay, Google has a percentage and OpenAI has a percentage, but the biggest percentage of the value of that AI belongs to the society. So that means that there has to be open models that are completely public, on top of which companies, research groups can do their own innovation. And that happened before, and there are plenty of examples. Of course, I mean, for me, the idea of these generative AI systems will become the operating system of the future. In fact, it's not like AI, everyone will use AI, and basically AI is a very transversal technology that will support every single device that you can imagine. So it's the operating system of all devices. In the world of operating systems, of course, we have examples of companies and Windows and Apple, but we also have Linux. And most of the good innovation happening in technology came from using Linux. We need a Linux of AI. We need a Linux that really is public, and on top of which you can develop commercial, non-commercial, any type of product. And right now, we don't have that. And it was mentioned like the idea of an European AI. No? We are really far from having an European AI, and that should be a major focus.
And this is in the impact of the AI in general, but in the music industry?
Okay, the music industry, we are really bad. We are really behind, sincerely. Because it could be you can explain it in a good manner or not, but all the industries, sincerely, or most of the big industries are doing much better than music industry. Most industries have already seen that happening. They have developed their own research team within the companies. They have developed their own consortia to try to understand how to handle it. And music is an industry that the concept of research and innovation is not in our DNA. All the major sort of musical, especially, let's say, content owners, have never considered the idea of that they need to have an AI or a technology team to regulate that. So that means that we are really behind in trying to take advantage of that. I don't know how many of these big companies are really having their own solutions. They are all finding agreements. But in music, I think it's a great opportunity because there is a lot of challenges that are very interesting and can be used. But sincerely, we are really behind in many things.
Can I put on a spot here? There are two music and AI cátedras in Barcelona. One of the Pompeu Fabra with BIMAT, and another one of the Centro de Visión por Computación and Festival Cruïlla, that nowadays have some money in order to involve private companies and research groups. So if here there is any company that thinks that can do research with the university and can look for innovation, there is a way of how to do it is with the research. Mathias, Amaia, Xavier, do you want to add something before we go to the questions?
No, for me, the only last point is, since clearly data is the bottleneck and the copyright where it's held, and where that's what makes the big difference between all these different companies. In Europe, there are no big companies like that. So the only solution for that is collaboration and finding all the the indies, the small companies, etc., to really pull together initiatives that try to create data repositories that can scale. I'm sure we will never be able to scale to the sizes of the big US companies, but at least try to get in some specific areas, enough data, enough collaboration, on top of which we can build systems that fulfill the AI Act and that fulfill our European criteria.
Amaia, Mathias.
I wanted to add two things. On the one side, I wanted to mention that the regulation has this extraterritorial character, so that it will apply. Well, it has it's a handicap and a perk itself, but so it implies that irrespective of the place in which the model of the training of the model was done, at the very moment in which an AI company wants to enter the European Union, this regulation and all its obligations will apply to them. So that if we have a US company that has trained its model in China, for example, but they want to operate here in the European Union, they will be subject to this law. So of course, that could turn Europe into a, let's say, old-fashioned and over-regulated island where no high-tech company wants to enter. But at the same time, this regulation allows for companies in the EU and foreign companies to operate under the same rules. So that's on the one side, because I think this is something that the general public doesn't know, and it's important. And on the other side, I wanted to mention the fact, or the licensing models that are being now put into, well, presented, because they are not still into force. But last week was published in Spain a new draft of Real Decree that regulates the collective licenses given by collecting societies. And it has an extended character, which means that these collecting societies will be able, or will be allowed to license all the content, both the one they control, because a rights holder gave them express permission or granted them those rights, and also the content that has not been granted to them. And so this is for the sake of ease and effectiveness of licenses, and for the sake of efficiency of these AI providers. And so I think it's interesting to mention this new project that has been published, and it has to comply with certain requirements, such as one, which is that any rights holder that has not granted those rights, or even the one that has granted those rights to the collecting society, must have the ability or the capacity to make an opt-out of their rights at any moment of the process, and in a super easy and efficient and quick way. So, I mean, this is just like in the hearing process and an audience, so it's not still, there's a lot of time until this works, but we'll have to wait and see how effectively, how the technology keeps evolving and how these regulations, laws, licenses adapt to this new technology. So let's see.
Well, as I stressed before, we saw that music creators worldwide do embrace this new technology, and it's not just a question of yes or no, because it's not like a monster coming up that just steals our money or something like that. We have to just find clear rules in which we will define our future of dealing with this. So because there are really a lot of possibilities, and even famous songwriters say, okay, there are still the possibilities to make me even make things that I haven't known before. So this has to be clear. And on the other side, it's also clear that all these machines wouldn't work without the fuel, and the fuel of all of this is copyrighted content. It's all the music and all the texts that have been written and already before, and so has to be clear that we have to find rules, we have to find laws, but we also have to find face-to-face agreements sometimes, and we have to, make cooperations and find rules that are suitable for everyone. And this is pretty cool, because we have a framework now with the AI, but it is nothing more than just an ethical framework. So we have to define rules that work for everyone and that make an outcome also for the music creators that are the basis of all of we discussed today.
So let's go to the questions. I don't know if there is any questions. Someone want to make a question? Someone there?
Hello. My question is about when we talk about industry here, we are talking about industry that is based on, let's say, materia prima is art. So in that case, it's music. But you said that this part of the AI applied to music is behind other industries. So we are not talking about comparing the music industry against, for example, motorcycle or pharmaceutical industry. So, in fact, if we compare, for example, with the book industry, I think it has the same problems related with AI than music, because the materia prima is art, it's literature, etc. And I'm not talking about visual arts, because perhaps it's more complex. But do you have compared with the book industry?
Well, for me, I think we are very different. Sincerely, the book industry, if such a concept is a good one to encapsulate, is based on language, on written language. And therefore, written language is very openly available for these AI systems to train on. And when you think about developing technologies to enable the creators of writing, you are not really specifically saying, okay, it has to be only the great writers that have to be part of that. You could perfectly train a very good language model using many types of text that are completely available. So you can openly develop AI systems for supporting the text-based type of technologies, which the same case for image. There is zillions of open image repositories under open licenses that can be used for training image, not maybe pieces of art, but for sure images that are, again, the fundamental element for which you can enable technologies for artists. The case of music, that's not the case. In fact, the biggest difficulty that ChatGPT cannot create music is that ChatGPT, even the big corporations, have not been able to get their hands on the scores, on the music, written music that all the publishers have. That, for historical reasons, is not easily available, and if it's available, it's in a printed form that makes it very difficult to convert into the symbolic representation. That makes it very clear that then if you ask ChatGPT to compose anything at the symbolic level, fails radically. Again, this could be a good or a bad thing, but for sure, in the music we have some specificities of the information that we are handling that makes it much harder to propose technologies, propose solutions that can help a musician do their work. And unless the publishers are ready to agree and generate databases with that content, we are not going to be able to develop AI that can support musicians. And that's what I was referring to in the sense of in the music generation or music understanding in general. we are far behind than text understanding, image understanding, or some of these other media.
But sorry, one thing, but there you have Suno, Audio, and many other platforms that work very good with
But this is terrible.
works
No.
and with masters.
They do very bad.
I don't think so. Depending on
They-
what you
they-
want to...
They do very good.
Depending on the result you want.
They do very good in a very niche type of music, pop music,
Yeah.
1.1, 2-minute songs, in which you don't have, as a creator, no control. It's a button that you press and it generates. For me, artistically, has no interest.
I have discussed this topic with some colleagues before, and we always say that the type of music that Suno, Audio, or these platforms are going to replace is the, what's the word in English?
Western pop.
Well, no, the functional music for documentaries, the type of thing
Like
that is music.
the kind of decent music, you know,
Well,
like what,
it's bad.
mediocre music.
Accelerate.
So that mediocre music, which we are surrounded by massively, of course, and it's created by humans,
But-
that it's going or potentially can be replaced
But this has
by
always
these
been
platforms.
in the past technologies. Synthesizers replace bad luthiers, and synthesizers replace other type of people, and drum machines replace bad drummers, and so I think we have overcome that danger in the sense that's always we have to accept that. I mean, AI will replace some jobs for sure. The issue is what it will enable and what will enhance. So I agree. Suno is replacing some jobs, for sure. But for me, it's not a musical threat.
Matthias.
I agree with that. So yes, of course, I think it has always happened like this. So there were jobs substituted by new technologies always, but I think we have really filled the gap that is approaching here. So on the other hand, we have to find solutions to compensate this what is happening there. So I think. I'm not an artist, I'm not a musician, but I think from an artistic point of view, we don't really should contribute attributes to these kind of platforms that are really human-like, like creativity or really the ability to learn things. I think what these machines do is to find like the most common denominator. So these are standard, these are cliches, this is standard kind of music. So this is retrieved easily, and this is what AI can do currently. So yeah, that's true from an artistic point of view. On the other hand, there are business models completely being destroyed, and we have to compensate that.
But sincerely, the music industry is so conservative that you need these type of threats for the industry to advance. Napster helped the music industry advance, and Napster were the devil. And then the music industry was able to learn from that and find solutions. We are in the same situation. Unless Suno appeared, there would not be now an interest in finding solutions for that.
I think we have time for one more question, the last one.
Hello, Mikhail Kartuzov, Volga. Thank you very much for very nice ideas, which we've heard. I have two contradiction questions. First of all, do you think that European Union reglamento is not enough for defending? Because outside of this like Hardin, there are billions of people and companies as well. And as example, I can provide, for example, New York Convention of Recognition and Enforcement of International Arbitral Awards. More than 200 countries are the signing of this convention. Maybe it's a good example for all the world to do it. It's the first one. Second one. Yesterday and today, we realized that artificial intelligence is just the tool for the creators. Maybe we shouldn't to regulate these relations because it's just tool. Because finally, responsible is the creator who using this tool, and everything is regulated by the intellectual property protection. If the creator using something and using in wrong way and didn't like pay attention that he violate the intellectual property rights, he's responsible. Do you think that it's already decided everything? We shouldn't regulate too much this one. Thank you.
Well, I have a comment because, from our group, we have been contacted by the European Union to help them in really sort of deploying the AI Act for the case of music and audio. It's clear that, again, the Act is very generic, and it was mentioned yesterday, without really understanding what are the technologies doing, what is the state of the art. You cannot regulate. We are trying to regulate something much before it should be done, but there is so many threats that there is an effort to do that. So there is clear now a lot of work to be done from the current regulation to the implementation at the country level, and how to follow that up, how to really implement it, et cetera, et cetera. And they are clearly contacting the stakeholders, contacting research groups to really fine-tune what is possible. We talk about transparency as a key, but how to really monitor and how to really be able to support that regulation from a technological point of view is not easy at all. And that's work to be done. We are too early, but it had to be done because the public opinion demanded that. So that's, for me, that's an important point.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, coming back to your second question, if you say that it's mainly the responsibility of the creator who works with the tools or not, I don't really think that this is a reality, because it's not only human creators that we are talking about. Because when I talked about the AI slop that it's happening, that there are platforms that automatically create songs and automatically distribute these songs to the platforms. And so there's a flood of low quality music on playlists for ambient music and chill out and deep focus music, etc., on Spotify. And there's a lot of this music is not handmade, and just maybe not even a human being that pressed the button for this. So, but there are bots.
Yeah. And in fact, a lot of it has not even been heard once.
Yes.
So Spotify is full of songs that has not even heard, not even by the author, because there was no author.
Not even. But they tag these with buzzwords that are searched pretty often. So there is, for example, I think there's a hardcore band that's called Health. And they currently have an AI-generated album in their discography that they don't know about because it was tagged with health. Because many people look for health music or some kind of this. And so there is a lot of things of this happening automatically. And so it's not really only the responsibility of the artists. So we have to find rules that avoids this, because otherwise we got spammed with this.
And also, it really depends on if you create a content with AI or yeah, exactly, with AI, or that the content is only an AI content, you know. So if you are assisted by AI, there's no problem at all. The problem comes when that content, that new content, is only created with this AI. And also, the platforms will be responsible for it.
And they are scared because they have no idea how to control that.
Yeah.
And who owns the right if the AI has created? Because this is not a tool, it's a creator, or could be a creator. No, so yesterday there was an idea, or some ideas of yesterday. One said maybe some creation that has been creating with AI, with the collaboration of AI, should have a different protection than someone that has been created just from the human. and someone that has been created just with AI, without the human intervention, should have some other protection. Because that's the debate. And there was also an idea that said maybe it is not the creation that has to be protected. Maybe it is the creator who has to be protected. So all that ideas are really new, and we don't know exactly how to follow up. And we will see what happens on the next year, but I think that's a good place where to the debate. In any case, all this creation, even the human, even the machine ones, came from other datas. Our human creation came also from datas, our experience, our ideas. And one of the founders of the Barcelona Music Lab, Jenny Roca, is when trying to explain that situation, he used to say that in the United States, there are few companies that owns a big amount of data, so they are really competitive. In China, the government owns a big amount of data, so they are really competitive. And in Europe, the data is from each person, so we are not competitive. And we should try to find a way to be competitive and to find some ways to share or to use the public data in some way that give us some opportunities to compete on the worldwide world. No? So I think we finish with that. Thank you very much. I don't know what's coming now, the conclusions. Yeah? Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mathias. Thank you, Maya.